Welcome to the Ergo2go podcast, brought to you by the Back School and Ability on Demand. I'm your host, Matt Jeffs. We bring you interesting people from the world of ergonomics, on-site injury prevention, risk management, health, safety, well-being, and a whole lot more. Don't forget to subscribe below and click on the little bell in the upper right-hand corner to get the latest on the overlapping fields of ergonomics, health and safety, risk management, human resources, and healthcare right here on the Ergo2go podcast. Welcoming back to the Ergo2go podcast, we are welcoming the Executive Vice President of the Validation Institute. He's also the Principal of Healthcare Performance Incorporated and the Principal of Worksite Health Advisors. He speaks and writes extensively on high-performance healthcare, clinics, and management of clinical and financial risk. It's my pleasure to welcome back to the Ergo2go podcast nationally prominent healthcare analyst and commentator, Dr. Brian Klepper. Brian, welcome back.
Thanks, Matt. How you doing?
I'm good. And it's good having you here. We got into some really good stuff in the last segment. I want to return to musculoskeletal, but before we do, I think it's important for us to address that over the past decade, health plan stock price has grown spectacularly under the current paradigm. Who seems to be the winners and the losers here? Can you share with us a little bit about that?
Well, the winners are first and foremost the health plans and all the major healthcare companies. Mm-hmm. The losers are there are three losers. One is primary care physicians. They sort of don't count. Mm-hmm. Patients who have a lot of unnecessary care done to them without their knowledge, and people who pay the bills. And ultimately, we all lose because we're funneling so much money to healthcare that we're robbing from everything else. We're robbing from schools, from infrastructure, and everything else in society. It's a very, very serious problem. The person who has written about this most eloquently is Dave Chase, right, in his book, A CEO's Guide to Restoring the American Dream. And anybody who's seriously interested in this, I would urge them to take a look at this. It's an eminently readable book, despite the fact that I wrote the foreword. But yeah, it's really worth looking at. About a year ago, on a lark, I had a bright idea. I decided to start looking at the growth, at the rate of growth of health plan stock prices. Mm-hmm. And so this was a 20-minute exercise. Go and get the stock price, at this date in 2009 when the Affordable Care Act was passed, and then again currently, and see how much growth had happened. And I looked at the stock price numbers of the major health plans. United, Cigna, Aetna, Humana, Anthem, and when you rank order them, they go from Humana has grown the most, and Anthem has grown the least, but Anthem has grown an average of 16% per quarter for 37 quarters. Humana has grown 29% per quarter for 37 quarters. This is 3.5 times as fast as the Dow and the S&P have grown. This is absolutely spectacular growth. One of my colleagues dropped me a note and said, the only way to do this any other way is with a gun.
Yes.
What it really says is health plans make more if it costs more. And so they are fully dedicated to doing everything possible to make it cost as much as possible with a slow enough growth so that they don't kill the golden goose.
Yes.
But if you think about it, most of your listeners and watchers are musculoskeletal people. Think about the rate of spinal surgeries that are unnecessary and inappropriate. Do the health plans go, wait a minute, you can't do that surgery, it's not called for? No, they don't. When they spot that somebody has done those procedures, do they throw them off the network? No, they don't. And that's because that adds to the total growth of costs. And so when you understand that, and you come to understand that the healthcare industry has come to depend on this unnecessary and inappropriate care, then you realize that the only way out is to go around them, is to find there's a corollary here also, which is that you can't fix healthcare through policy. You can only do it through the marketplace, because the guys who make policy are getting bribes every day. The legislators and the congressmen, they're getting bribes every day from the healthcare industry. So we're doing what the healthcare industry wants in policy.
Wow.
And to try to fix it otherwise is wrong. But the market isn't like that. The market is, can you give them a better deal? Mm-hmm. And so what we're really talking about is making purchasers an offer they can't refuse, that disrupts the hooks that the healthcare industry has in all of us.
Yeah. There seems to be too many players. It's lopsided playing
field. Hugely.
And there are companies that are big enough to have the clout to be able to perhaps turn this ship around, or turn their ship around. But I wonder about the smaller employers. Is there any hope for consortia to coalesce and maybe do things on a group basis?
Well, I was the CEO of an organization called the National Business Coalition on Health. Now it has a slightly different name.
Right.
But it was the National Association of Regional Business Health Coalitions.
Mm-hmm.
And what I found was that all of those most of those organizations, not all, nearly all, had been co-opted by pharma, by the health plans, by the health systems. They give them money, and they back off of doing anything that is going to be aggressive on behalf of their own members. So when pharma gives money to a regional business health coalition to influence their messaging on how drugs ought to be bought,
mm-hmm.
that undermines their members' interests. That undermines the business coalition's members' interests. So I eventually resigned from that organization.
Mm-hmm.
I began to go after this other approach. And one of the things that has been remarkable is that there are aggregations of industry organizations, like the plastics manufacturers, the rubber manufacturers, the molding manufacturers. Those three groups by themselves represent about 500,000 lives.
Right.
And they are coming together and saying, we are sick to death of the healthcare industry's practices, and we're going to go around them. Yeah. Show us what to do to go around them. And
beautiful.
that is the beginning of real change, because there we're not just talking about organizations that have 500,000 employees. We're talking about collaborations among much smaller organizations.
Right.
Go ahead. Things are beginning to change.
Beautiful. I have some experience working with regional manufacturing associations, one in North Florida, about 300 companies, small, medium, and large. Some of them
right.
are brand names, and also now associated in the state of Florida with a manufacturing extension program, which are all 5,000 manufacturers in the state of Florida. These are some of the groups that need you, that need your ability to identify high-performance healthcare programs and organizations. And you're right, help them against this tide, because it's truly a tide against them. Their bottom line, it affects us all.
Think about another point that's very important, going back to the stock price growth.
Yes. Keep
in mind that this is a two-edged sword. That the health plans that have been experiencing this huge stock price growth
mm-hmm.
are in a box, because they can't do anything to change the way that they work, because if they do, it'll drive down their stock price. So if an Aetna buys into an approach to healthcare that makes it cost less with better results, then total spend on healthcare drops, earnings drop, stock price drops, and market capitalization drops. which they can't do.
Right.
So they're stuck doing what they've always done. Upstart organizations in healthcare that are reform minded, like Amazon, like Walmart, they don't have that constraint. Healthcare is not their core business, and their stock price is not based on that. So those are the organizations to watch. They're the ones that have the muscle to take the kinds of stuff that we're talking about here and put it into practice and make it into a reality.
You're data driven, and so I know you're collecting things like net savings from dealing with these high performance. Can you share with us what can?
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Think about it logically.
Yeah.
The organization, the musculoskeletal management organization that I mentioned in Tallahassee,
right,
Integrated Musculoskeletal Care, they will make they will provide a guarantee to save the client organization 25% on their musculoskeletal spend on the patients they touch. Well, that in most organizations, that's going to translate to a minimum of a 4 to 5% reduction on total spend. It could be as much as 8 to 12% reduction in total spend. That's an enormous number.
It is.
If you do that and you start looking at different modalities, different medical domains, drug management, you can recover 7% on drug management. If cardiometabolic, you can recover 4 to 5% on cardiometabolic. On imaging, you can collect 4 to 5% on imaging costs, and on and on and on. Large claims resolution, large claims review, and so on and so forth. You know, the goal is to be able to go into an employer and say, if you work with us and do the things that we show you to do, all of which will be better for your employees, we can financially guarantee, pick a number, a 20 or 25% reduction off of total spend, because the real number is closer to 40 to 50% reduction on total spend, because that's how much excess there is in the system. We think that it's closer. We think that it's 50 to 60%, maybe higher.
So yeah, even playing it safe, those are impressive numbers. You can stay well within those boundaries. And are these sort of things year over year? Do they eventually change the culture of an organization, company? Yeah, I was going to ask you that. How far down the road?
I mean, you're not going to save, 20% this year and 20% next year, but you're going to save 20% the first year, and you're going to stay there.
Mm-hmm.
Which means that you drop your baseline by 20 or 25%, and then you stay. Then whatever everybody else is experiencing in terms of inflation, you don't experience that. So it compounds very rapidly. The math is very compelling.
Well, I didn't even think about that. Of course, that you're flattening the curve, as they say. So then that becomes a market advantage, doesn't it?
Huge market advantage.
I get
that's
it.
That's one of the big arguments that we're making for investing in these kinds of things. Keep in mind that to do this, the benefits manager has to turn his or her back on the benefits advisor and on the health plan that's been sending them to resorts and taking them out to dinner. Okay, and they have to do something that's going to piss those people off.
Right.
But if I go to a benefits manager and I show them an opportunity, let's say with the musculoskeletal management,
mm-hmm.
and they show it to their CFO, their CFO is going to go, I can save 4 points, 5 points on my healthcare spend just by doing this one thing. Why wouldn't we do that?
Mm-hmm.
And it's financially guaranteed. So that's why there are these very large organizations that are looking very seriously at organizations like this. So the opportunity is huge. You want to make people you've got to recognize that the healthcare industry's fixes are in.
Yes,
they've got their hooks into all of us, and they're milking us dry.
Mm-hmm.
So to break that cycle, we have to find offerings that so strong that they can't be refused.
It sounds like it takes a little bit of courage to make that first step, but once one follows that path, it's going to be worth their while.
So you look for things first that don't require a lot of disruption,
Mm-hmm.
and that are going to give a big payback. So a good example of that is claims review.
Right.
There are organizations that will look through your hospital-based claims and determine whether they are legal or illegal. An example of an illegal claim would be a charge for a surgery that was done to recover a sponge that got left in a patient, and then they charge the employer for that. That can't be charged to the employer. That's on the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
So it turns out that when you do that kind of analysis, you can typically recover 17 to 25% of everything that has been paid to a hospital that year. That works out to between 5 and 10% of total spend. That's a big number.
It is. So it is that knowing enough to find that, I'm going to use the term low-hanging fruit, but that's
right. That's exactly what it is. So
yeah.
You do that first. You give the employer confidence in this alternative set of processes,
mm-hmm.
and then they're more likely to come back and say, "Okay, well, let's try the cardiometabolic module as well."
Yes, I get it. You can actually. It sounds almost like you can do the whole buffet or a la carte.
Right, you can, and what we would like to do is the whole buffet because it's quicker and it's more direct, but it's
mm-hmm.
a little complicated and it's somewhat disruptive.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, what we want to get to are health plans that actually work.
Yeah.
And that work much better. I mean, everything is a long shot. You've got to be realistic about how in deep the healthcare industry has its hooks.
Yes.
But if there is an approach that can work, this is probably the one.
Brian, we could plumb these depths for hours, and I think I would love for us to repeat this. If you ever have the opportunity to join us again, I'd like to do chapters 2, 3, as many as you would like. Would that be something you might consider?
That'd be fine. I would like to talk in some depth about what the musculoskeletal organization in Tallahassee, Florida has done,
yes.
because I believe that it is so profound. So it is Nobel worthy. And
perhaps we might have you back on with them. That might be kind of an interesting thing.
The guy to talk, there are two guys who run that organization, a guy named Chad Gray and another guy named Mark Miller, and they are both extremely eloquent and charming, and very worthwhile to have as guests.
I'll reach out to them and let's see if we can arrange that. If people want to learn more about the important work you're doing, what's the best way for them to find you?
Drop me a note at bklepper@worksitehealthadvisors.com. Advisors is ORS, and I'm real easy to find.
I'll make sure I drop it into the show notes afterwards so that it's something people can find. And Brian, thank you so much. We will delve deeper into the musculoskeletal aspects. I'll reach out to those gentlemen and maybe we'll do a round robin, a round table or something. And
it would be worthwhile.
I think it
Absolutely.
would. I really do. Well, thank you, Brian, and we really appreciate this, and let's do more of it.
My pleasure. Thanks so much.
Excellent. You've been listening to and watching the Ergo2go podcast. I'm your host, Matt Jeffs, brought to you by the Back School and Ability on Demand. We bring you interesting people like Dr. Brian Klepper from the world of ergonomics, on-site injury prevention, health, safety, well-being, risk management, and a whole lot more. Folks, don't forget to subscribe below and click on the little bell in the upper right-hand corner to get the latest info from the overlapping fields of ergonomics, health and safety, risk management, human resources, healthcare, and so much more right here on the Ergo2go podcast. Until next time, let's be safe, let's be smart, let's be helpful, and let's get to work. See you next time, everybody. Bye-bye.